Welcome to Three Devs and a Maybe, the podcast series for beginner web developers and general web enthusiasts. Now, introducing your show hosts, Michael Budd, Fraser Hart, Lewis Keynes, and Ed Mann.
Hi everyone, welcome to Three Devs and a Maybe, the podcast series for all future budding web devs and whatnot. My name's Ed Mann, and I am today joined by the one, the only Michael Budd.
Oh, thank you. Hello everyone. Nice to be here.
Wow, I bigged you up there and you just...
That was such an enthusiastic response, wasn't it?
I'm not used to being on this end of it, but yeah, carry on. Sorry.
Wow. And the glorious, presumptuous, too mean, keep them keen, Lewis Keynes.
Hang on, presumptuous?
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I've no idea.
It
You're
sounds
gonna need to
like...
Did you
elaborate
say
on that.
presumptuous? Because I said presumptuous before.
Maybe. I don't know. I know. All I thought was it worked with that link, that rhyme that I was spraying.
Well, let's stick with it.
I'm not
Yeah.
presumptuous. I don't presume anything.
More promiscuous, I'd say.
Yeah,
Promiscuous.
Lewis
You
Keynes.
should know, Mickey.
How are you doing, Lou?
I'm very good. I've had a nice, pleasant weekend and having a nice, lazy Sunday. And I think the Sunday podcast recordings are a good thing now.
I can
I think
see
we're all just fresh
via.
for them.
Absolutely. I can see via the video chat that you've got a beard growing.
I do.
This
Yeah,
being in regard to Movember, absolutely. It's going well.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, I think I may tweet a picture because I actually do have something to show this year. I've grown more in 2 weeks than I did in a whole month last year, and last year I don't remember any beard appearing at any point at all. So this is cool. This is exciting, and my mum said I look very dashing, so that was nice.
You do. You look great. Can I just say,
Thank you.
I took this the wrong way, but I just kind of thought you would probably be the kind of guy who that would be like a month's growth. But that's obviously come across pretty quickly, I guess.
Yeah, 2 weeks. No one's more surprised than me.
Is that like a backhanded compliment? I don't know. Like the way that
Probably
was
not. No, because most people have said the same thing to me, and I don't think they're being complimentary when they say that.
No,
So-
it was a compliment, yeah. I just, like, for
you
me,
don't pay me compliments, just very, very painful
I
criticism.
see.
Yeah,
I would have
It's like,
that.
you suck,
If I shaved
Keynes.
in the morning, I would have that by about lunchtime.
Really?
Wow.
I know.
Are you
Wow.
kidding?
Yeah. Well,
Not on your
quite.
head.
Oh,
Oh.
wow. This podcast has just turned into gun territory.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means. But anyway, so Lou,
Yeah,
what's your
it was
weekend
a-
like?
Ed's saying some weird stuff already this week.
I
This could be
am.
interesting.
I have no. I'm headlining the show. This makes no sense. I'm not headlining it. Wow,
Headlining-
This is
headline
going
act.
all downhill from here. So Lou, how has your week been?
My week's been very, very good. I'm back to working from home now. Actually, the internet
really?
place in our studio has been rubbish, which obviously isn't ideal for a website developer. And we're moving offices at some point in the next few weeks, and they've basically said to work from home until then, so that I've got another couple of impending deadlines coming up and bits and bobs. So
Oh,
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
nice,
full time at home then.
pretty much at the moment, well, yeah, the understanding is that I'm at home until they tell me I need to come into the office.
Brilliant.
So they can email all the PSDs and stuff and things that I need. So yeah, no, it's fine. It's good. I actually really like working from home.
How
it's
do
nice.
you find because how do you keep in contact with them? Is it over Skype or Hip Chat or something like that?
Yeah. Skype and emails and text messages, whatever really. My boss gave me a couple of calls on Friday. You know, it's I don't understand why more web devs aren't just allowed to work from home, to be honest. I mean, once they're given a brief and they've got the stuff they need to get rolling, do they always need to be in the office?
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of like picking. I mean, I think Mickey, your company's got it right, where it's 3 days working from home and then it's 2 days in the office.
You know what? I've been really controversial now and say I
You're
don't
going
think
to
they
say
have
something
been
about my
exactly
beard
right.
again, aren't you?
I don't think it's real. No. You know what? If I had my choice now, I'd work in the office 5 days a week.
No, really? Wow.
It's
No,
nice. It's nice to have-
That's interesting. I mean, that
We're falling out this week, Mick, already, and it's not good. We're going to
I
make
know.
yourself.
backhanded
Brilliant.
compliments and this. So, what's the reason why, Mick? You've got to back this up.
Well, because okay, say you're working on a project that's like 3 or 4 developers working on, or designer, project manager, and then you're communicating via Skype, and it's like typing away, and then you wait for the response, and it's like, oh, okay, do I carry on my work while I'm waiting for a response, or do I wait in case I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing? It's so frustrating. And okay, you could pick up the phone, but
no, but I can understand that actually. It's more that kind of you can just stand up, walk to their desk, get their full undivided attention almost. Whereas Skype is like any IM, like any even a phone call. People are doing other things while they're talking to you. At least if you know what the actual thing is when you're standing face to face.
I guess I would say I do completely agree with work from home. I think it's brilliant, but do it don't say, oh, okay, you're going to do Tuesday and Thursday from home. Do it on the day where you know that you've got so much you can crack on with. I just say to people, look, I'm not going to be contactable while I'm doing this stuff. No,
that's a really open point. I mean, that's a really interesting point because you've experienced. It's almost a year now, isn't it, that you've been working from home? Like we're not working from home, but having this year and a half. Wow, time has flown. Yeah. And
plus, I did a little bit at our previous place.
Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, and I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? It's like saying actually for fixed days probably isn't the best way of doing it because you're going to then have that day off. Maybe that day is the one day that you should be talking to these people about a certain thing. No, that is an interesting thing. I mean, I do like the idea of rolling out of bed.
Well, you did work from home for quite well until you started where you are now. You were working from home for full time for quite a long stretch, weren't you, Ed?
Yeah. Oh no, this is the thing. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do like working from home. But especially now, I would like it because of I mean, the commute into London is okay and stuff, but it would be nice to kind of mix it up a little bit. But I think I can understand where people come from, where it's like you need to be around for people because nothing does beat the face-to-face conversation. Whereas they can word an email, they could talk over Skype or something, but sometimes your point doesn't come across. Or you don't explain it correctly. You can actually feel if the conversation's going the right way, if the person's understanding getting what you actually mean and stuff. So I could definitely appreciate that. I think there is some times though when it's nice just to work from home and kind of I think it's almost like the break, isn't it? Like maybe that one day a week you can be like, okay, well I know I've got all this stuff to do. I'll do it that day instead of saying I'm always at home these 3 days and then 2 days I'm in that office at that time. I don't know if Mickey, if that's the way you feel. Like it's on an as per basis instead of.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I just honestly think, and I know, like Lou, I spoke to you about this, I think you said in the last podcast that you had like a period of 3 days where you hadn't left the house or something. And I guess if you're working in an office, you can't do that. And I think or Ed, you always used to tell me this when we worked together. You used to say get out at lunchtime to get some fresh air, and for a long time I didn't, and then you persuaded me, but. Yeah, I think there's definitely an element of that it can get a bit unhealthy, I guess.
Took myself out on a Forrest Gump style run Wednesday night.
Oh no, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the WhatsApp, where am I? And I couldn't believe I actually got the place where I had no idea what you were talking. I just saw a hair, I'm like, it's the hair. It's definitely the hair.
Could tell 7 miles though, man. You went that was like your first run in a while, or?
Yeah, run is the loose term. I ran some of it.
Okay.
It's weird. I don't know. That running, obviously, you need to be in a certain physical shape, but mentally, I think as well. To when I run, the first point where I start getting out of breath or things start hurting or something, I'm like, I better take a bit of a break rather than just kind of trying to push through that barrier and crack on with it. I managed to do that a couple of times, but
it's actually much harder if you stop and then start again. It's much harder for your body to take.
Noticed that. If anything, it was more pain. My legs were more painful when I wasn't running than when I was. I managed to run most of the way, sort of halfway there, but on the way back, I just wasn't. My hips started to. I sound like a right old man here, but my hips and my knees started to hurt, and just where I'm not used to it. It's 7 miles. I mean, there's people that run marathons in 2 hours and stuff.
Hey, it's all that growing the beard.
Puts me to shame, really.
Are they growing beards at that time? No, they're not. Your body can only do one thing at once.
Can I just say, because it's a big
single
mistake
process.
I made.
We've got a single process going there.
Yeah.
Single threaded.
Did you have proper running footwear?
Trainers.
That's why you're getting the pain in your knees and stuff. You have to get running trainers, proper special ones. And
oh, really?
So important, man. Yeah, honestly. And they're not that expensive. I got mine for 35 or something. And because I was getting pain all over. And I know someone else who I work with who was doing the same thing, and they got the same pain. But yeah, get the running trainers and you'll be fine.
What do they actually do then? What's the idea of them? Are they just really light, or?
Yeah, obviously they've got a lot more padding on the sole, and it's not just the padding. Actually, that's a common myth. Actually, but it's to do with
the way it's positioned,
like
the
yeah, exactly, the shaping and stuff. So
isn't it? I've heard that because I used to do quite a bit of jogging. Like jogging is actually bad for you in a sense, like because running on the ground, like it's better to run on grass and.
Correct. Yeah, because you're running on tarmac, like the pressure on your knee joints.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So don't do exercise, guys. I think that's what the verdict is. Exercise is bad for you.
Yeah,
program.
Yeah, it's a web podcast, so we're talking about running. So
hey, I think actually
sign us up, Nike.
It goes sign us up. Yeah, Nike, whatever, Adidas.
How has your guys' weeks at work been anyway? Anything exciting occurred for either of you?
Go for it, Mick.
Yeah, well, I haven't really got anything, so you go, and I'll think if I've got anything.
What have I done this week? It's pretty much similar to last week, working on the Swift stuff and stuff like that. Really, I mean, I've got quite a few things to talk about this week, kind of news-related stuff. One of the ones, actually, I would like to talk about now is the PHP blog article. Well, in the PHP world, but the blog article came out about alcoholics. I
did not see this.
Right. So let me send it to you.
I saw Jeffrey Way put a thing on Twitter about conferences and the alcohol culture.
Yeah, kind of like the alcohol culture at conferences.
I'm drinking a Kronenberg at the moment, so I don't know if I should how qualified I
think it's quite.
We're recording at 3 in the morning. So,
3 in the morning. I think it's quite an interesting one because I think even our podcast would kind of obviously what you do if you in a crowd together, a community together, you're a bit nervous. Having a drink is a good thing, kind of. Well, I say good thing in quotes. It's a thing you do, except to calm you down and stuff like that. And I think this guy kind of wrote a blog article. I'll put it in the show notes that said, are we? I don't know really what it was. It was more like, are we kind of pushing towards having alcoholism? And I thought it was quite extreme in what he was saying.
Yeah, I don't even know why that subject's being brought into it.
Yeah, and like in PHP,
coding websites and stuff.
Yeah, I think only because of if you go to these like meetups and you go to these conferences and stuff, kind of there is an alcohol culture of getting drunk and whatnot.
I don't think that's unique to just web stuff.
No,
though.
That's what I was thinking as well. I think it's to anything. If you've got a boat,
go out and play golf competitions afterwards. You go back and you have a drink in the bar and you talk about your round. It's not about getting smashed afterwards. It's just a nice, relaxed kind of informal atmosphere to talk about stuff.
But I just thought it was interesting that this article, and it did make the rounds, and it did kind of spark up quite a bit of conversation. And I was quite surprised by it, really, because I think it's more of a social thing, like in the world, not just a PHP thing. I don't think PHP, the PHP world has only this problem. I think
it did make me think when Jeffrey Way wrote that. I was like, crikey, what happens? What actually goes on at these conferences then? Like, are they dancing on tables, smashing windows at 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that?
PHP!
Has something actually happened that someone's obviously got genuine concerns about this, but is it based on something that's actually happened, or is it just the general alcohol perception thing? Or
I think one of the things they did mention, because I trawled through the Reddit comments and stuff, was that a lot of free gifts are alcohol and stuff like that, and there'll be an open bar and stuff. Yeah, so the emphasis is to drink quite a bit, and that is bad. Like I think that is bad. I think people want to do what they want to do, but putting kind of emphasizing the fact is not good.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah. I mean, that's unusual. I didn't realise that was. I don't see what the need is. The learning and the conference and the discussions. That's the priority in. Any freebies and things like that. You'd like to think would be based around.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of them. They said some of them. Yeah, some of them said. I mean, that's what some of them said were. Some of the freebies that they've seen in the past.
I guess, well, spoiler alert, but your idea about having our respective other halves, doing the podcast, talk about what it's like being with a developer, and I think you're spot on. And we are definitely a unique type of people, I guess, in the fact that it's very hard for us to leave our work at work, in the sense that if you've got a problem and it's unresolved, I don't know about you guys, but I hate that.
Yeah.
And I will think about it all evening, and I'll probably dream about it, to be honest with you. And I know probably I'm not the easiest person to live with or work with at times, to be honest. And I guess if you've had a really tough week working on a project and then you go to a conference, what is the thing you're going to want to do? Well, okay, yeah, you want to go and learn, but you also want to just kill some brain cells, right? And just
I mean,
have
that
a few
is
drinks.
I think this is the thing. Like, you're meeting up with people who are like-minded. You're nervous about meeting new people. I think a lot of developers are socially anxious people. And
true.
one way of dealing with that in the community in general is to, in society in general, is to kind of have a drink. So I think it's interesting. I think it is a very interesting conversation because you do see it sprawled over Twitter somewhat. In people's Twitter feeds that they are having fun at conferences.
In some cases it gets championed, doesn't it? Which I'm sure doesn't help.
It does, yeah. And,
always.
I think it can lighten the mood, but also I think it discourages people maybe somewhat who aren't extreme drinkers and heavy drinkers. I mean, I know we talk about it on the podcast and stuff, but I wouldn't think we're definitely not heavy drinkers. I mean, we're social drinkers in that we meet up every once in a while, have a good old drink or two. But I suppose it's kind of championing it, when we're saying that, we got drunk and stuff last time we met up and stuff. Is that a bad thing to say? I think that was another thing on the comments, to
Possibly.
maybe it is. I don't know, I'm quite intrigued.
My thoughts are, particularly if you've been a speaker at the event or you're an organizer or something like that, there may be somebody that's been in that conference or listening to whatever that wants to discuss something with you but isn't comfortable discussing it, doesn't want to be the one that puts their hand up in class because they're nervous or whatever. If they then come up to you and decide to discuss a subject with you in the evening and you're absolutely smashed, then that's awful. So I think, people, the organisers and the speakers are that, they're there for a reason to educate the people that are there. And, I think
that's a very interesting scenario that, that there is, the predominantly why you're at a conference is to learn, and to kind of, and to kind of socialise with your peers and stuff. But I do think there may be a bit of, it's in anything though, frat mentality where, it's nice to have a drink and stuff. But I did think it was interesting, this blog post kind of really did kick up a storm, and I think it hurt people, it kind of annoyed people the wrong way and stuff.
I think we definitely, get that in the show notes, and listeners to this show, but have a read of that and give us some feedback, and we can.
I think it's more of a social. I think maybe it is definitely more of a social thing than just a PHP thing. Even bigger than that, a programming thing. I think definitely what Mickey, you were saying, that we are very unique people. I think it's passionate people. I think maybe that is, kind of the subclass or superclass of us is that we do care a lot and. Anyway, sorry about that. I kind of went on a bit of a tangent there, but it was very interesting. Kind of, very interesting
point. We'd be interested to, it's obviously an active debate that's going on in the web community at the moment. So it'd be interesting to hear if anyone's got anything to say. Tweet us your opinions and stuff.
Absolutely.
I have something that I wouldn't run by you guys, but it'd be good to talk about on the podcast as well, because maybe we can get some feedback on whether this will be a popular idea or not. But obviously, like I said to you guys before, at the moment I'm doing kind of like catch-up classes on learning about Linux and Apache and all that kind of stuff, and just all that kind of setup stuff. I was wondering if that was kind of thing we could actually do like a mini series on like, but just very, very slowly and very simply, like just talk about, what is apt-get, and just start from the beginning, like with a blank Linux install, and then start to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to get more people using the command line, that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Understanding Unix architecture, that would be awesome. I think that's a great idea.
Because if we have got like, people who are beginners listening, that it probably is something that terrifies them, and it's something that terrified me, to be honest. So, but if you break down the little steps and have a look at what it is, it's not that bad at all. It's not the monster that.
In fact, it's very, very helpful, useful, and
it makes you up. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how is uni going, Mickey B?
Not too bad. I had a test this week, which I was unprepared for, but I think it went okay. We'll soon find out. But that was all right, and the other one, which is the tricky one, which I spent most of my time like learning for and stuff. That one's going okay, and I've had a few breakthroughs with that where I'm starting to like really understand things now, and not just regurgitate stuff, but actually understand it. So that's really good. But yeah, I found out like one of my assignments is actually from the work that we're doing in the classes. So it's that was like, just I'm so happy when I heard that. Yeah, exactly. So I'm still, behind on my reading probably, but I'm going to hopefully catch up this week. And I've only got like 5 weeks till Christmas, so Yeah, hopefully I'll get
Have you
there.
managed to devise a decent way of managing your time now that everything's going on? Has it come through trial and error, or do you still just kind of have to go with the flow and each day? Or
A little bit, yeah, but I have kind of got a bit of a routine that I've kind of slipped into where it's just a case of getting home, spending a bit of time with Toby, and then hitting the books, really, and doing stuff. So it is literally like, oh, I've got an hour free, I have to read. It's like, I honestly hardly ever watch television, I hardly ever do anything other than, at the weekends I'll try and catch up with friends and spend time with them on a Saturday, and then make sure Sunday that I'm revising, I guess. So it's definitely the toughest, probably 6 months of my life I've ever had, but also most rewarding. So I would say to anyone who's also thinking about it, do it. And
so you're thinking, have a kid, go to uni, and also get a brand new house that you need to work on in the same 6 months.
yeah,
Yes,
do all those things.
Sold.
You know, I'm
me.
just kind of a big believer in, just pushing your body to the limits sometimes. Be careful, don't do it too much, but, if it's rewarding and you can do it without breaking your health, then do it. That wasn't very clear, was it? But
I know what you mean.
We know what you mean.
It's far better to do that than just sit on your backside and do nothing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah,
I guess what I'm saying is push your comfort limits and see how you get on, but not for the sake of your health.
If we want to go off on like the random tangent like that, that's one of the things I always like David Blaine, the kind of things that he used to do, that kind of mentality, things like that.
I miss him. And is he still alive? I even want to say, because I've never heard of him in years. Like,
but just little like who would have ever thought up like deliberately like living in a plastic box for 44 days, being buried alive,
and then people
and
egging him because they're childish people. That's all I remember people doing.
But, I mean, those things are obviously extraordinary, like physical challenges. But you'd love to like know beyond that kind of how that's affected his whole outlook on life and things like that.
Well,
he must be one of the most mentally.
We should get a what is it, like an advertising plug from like Audible or something, and you can listen to David Blaine's autobiography on Audible.
I tell you what, David Blaine, I'm inviting you on this podcast.
I don't want him. No, he's not big enough. Lou, have you got? I heard you've got some stuff to talk about. So
I do have a few.
How about you? Spill the beans, sir.
Well, first of all, it would be great to mention the very nice chap that sent us an email in the week.
Oh yes,
Sean yes. Townsend. Hi, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
We're all absolutely chuffed to bits. It's always brilliant when anyone takes the time to email into us and lets us know that they're enjoying the podcast. It's great for us to know that. But yeah, he listened to last week. I was obviously talking about getting my feet wet with some of this responsive stuff, which has been pretty much the theme of my week and is going to be the theme of my next probably 3 or 4 weeks, because most of my back end work's done now, so it's all about the front end kind of things. And he said, "Hi guys, trust all is going well. With Lewis doing much more front end dev, he should have a look at Gulp, SAS, Compass, Breakpoint, and Suzy. Suzy is awesome as he's very flexible. I know." Sorry, that made me laugh when I said that. I know Lewis likes to watch Tuts, so I sourced these for him to have a look at, and he sent me a load of tutorial videos, and I'll put them all in the show notes for tonight. But yeah, spending all of today up to this point watching the Gulp tutorials that he sent me. And have you guys used Gulp at all? I could guarantee you that if you were to give yourself just maybe 2 or 3 hours to watch, certainly this tutorial series that I watch, because it's very, very good, that you'll realise, I need to be using this. All the little trivial things that, using things like the command line for SAS and going into your directory and starting SAS up, and then little things like that where you might be doing 3 or 4 different processes in the command line and stuff. You can just stick every single thing that you want to do into these Gulp.js files.
I said the awesome thing about Gulp is that it's very much a Unix philosophy, like the idea of piping things.
Pipe is one of their like major methods, and it seems to do a whole bunch of cool stuff as well. So, I mean, it does things like live reload. I mean, I can't believe that I haven't been using that along, the whole time anyway. But it's brilliant. So that's another thing that's going into like all my projects, literally from now, just off the back of watching these things today. But then, yeah, you could use. It's like a bit like Composer, really. You sort of write up this Gulp file, and you put all your configuration bits and bobs into there, and then you just run the grunt command when you start working, and it just does everything. Like it can watch for changes in all your CSS files, and it can compile everything. It can compress images. It can do all sorts. And I've just already thinking ahead to a million things that I've been doing quite sort of here's a made up word. Complicatingly, Gulp will help. I mean, one example, of making my own framework and stuff. A problem I had a while ago was that I've got certain bits that I want like in my main app directory, which is kind of a completely separate repository to the rest of my projects, but this is kind of the thing that I want to be available in each project, whereas the website projects are the things that are kind of specific to each website that I'm making. And I wanted to make sure that the asset files in those were available, so all like my CSS style sheets and stuff. But my document route goes through the public directory, so I was thinking, right, how can I get that code from there, into the public directory nice and cleanly? And this is kind of one way that it will do that, because it can just pipe the output straight from there, and it can watch for it all. So I was doing it in a complicated way, and that probably makes no sense what I just said, but I know what I meant.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah,
I would definitely check that out.
Yeah, Golf. Yeah, so yeah, that's a bit of a whistle stop kind of tour, but I'll certainly put the links to the tutorials that I've been watching. Leveluptuts.com. This is one I've never even heard of, but there's a guy on there, Scott something, I think his name is, that kind of does all these tutorials, and they're free again, and he's he does it in the right way, he does it in an engaging way, and he's enthusiastic and stuff, and makes the tutorials fun to watch. So thank you very much, Sean, for getting in touch and all that, and I'm certainly putting the things that you sent me into practice. So yeah, thank you very much again. And then I got a tweet from another guy. Actually, I wish I had the tweet up in front of me, but we were talking last week.
Can I ask, is it Jimmy Beryl?
Oh, yeah, I believe you got one as well, didn't you?
Yes, and we also got one 3 days. Yeah, that was awesome. He says, he's just saying, combing through the show notes, following up on nuggets in the latest episode. That is really nice of you, man. Yeah.
It's nice to know that people are thinking about the show that way. It's brilliant.
I know, it's kind of insane.
Yeah.
People actually listen to this. I thought it was just us and our girlfriends and then our parents. So, I was quite surprised that it reaches out to any more.
So you actually got Amy to listen to this?
She has listened to a couple of episodes, yes, and her and yeah, absolutely. And her brother-in-law actually is subscribed to it, which is quite funny because he's subscribed to it, and he's been unable to unsubscribe from it on his Android phone. I'm going to say it's an Android phone because I'm going to.
I hope he's not viewing that as a problem.
No, well, actually, last night we were around the house and he just started playing it, and it's kind of embarrassing when you're in a room full of people who aren't really into tech and web, and all they think is we actually just spend like an hour and a half talking about our lives, which now I'm starting to think we actually do. This is our rant. This is literally our little rant on the phone. It is, yeah, it is, exactly. I mean, it was funny because she was saying like, oh, it's like literally you just ring each other up, it's just like you having a little bit of banter on a Sunday evening and you record it and release it. And I'm like, actually, it kind of is. Wow. Yeah. Except now, obviously on Skype, it's turning in that the audio is pretty awful. So
yeah. Sorry to anyone listening that we're having some issues tonight. Me and Mick keep talking over each other, which is unfortunate.
No, they're doing it on purpose. They're doing it on purpose.
Yeah, we fell out at the beginning of the conversation, and to be honest, I'm questioning the rest of the friendship, but, we'll discuss that later. Jeremy, Kyle, if you want to come on the podcast and sort this out.
Jeremy, oh my days. Yeah, bring it all out. Bring out all the big guns.
David Blade.
Let's do this.
Or another, actually, I don't know if you guys saw it, actually, our Discuss comments. It was from Danny Weeks, and he wrote, I have been using Foundation from Zerb as a front-end framework for just over a year, and it is near enough everything I need, even things such as small as a classes to align text. Really good. I find it much better than Bootstrap. So actually, hey, if you guys are thinking about, I have actually played around with a little bit of Zerb back in the day, but I haven't actually used it recently, so it may be a thing. Like, we all assume Bootstrap is the way to go. Maybe give Zerb a try, you never know.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm willing to.
I mean, it's great. Nice. I mean, comments from people is awesome. Actually, knowing that people actually listen to us is kind of pretty crazy. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm sure we all feel the same way.
Yeah.
And on that, I mean,
can I just digress very, very briefly to? We were talking about Jimmy Burrell.
Yes.
Oh, Burrell. Sorry, Jimmy. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but yeah, he followed me on Twitter, and I had a quick look. He writes a very, very interesting blog, concoctedlogic.com.
Awesome. Well, put that in the show notes.
Yeah, exactly. I will do. He covers a whole bunch of interesting topics in there. I see he hasn't written one for a little while, so hopefully it's still an active blog. But yeah, I just thought he's kind enough to get in touch with us and stuff. So give him a little plug. And but by all means, I said to him to email his findings with the SSL certificates and DigitalOcean and all that stuff. I'd be really interested to hear kind of how he got around it.
I'm liking the look of Foundation. It looks really, really good, actually. That is the kind of tool that I would be looking for if I was to do a responsive site now.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, we all kind of are stuck in our ways, and that Bootstrap is everything. There are other options out there, and they do it in a different way. They have different mindsets. They have different idea philosophies behind them. I suppose we are probably the worst people to talk to about CSS in a sense, because we're kind of so ingrained in the PHP world and back-end stuff.
I'm trying to snap out of this, though. This is, I've had one of my more sort of fun, rewarding weeks last week. I've been embracing some stuff that's completely new, like properly learning about media queries and stuff like that, and it's been interesting. I really like kind of both sides of the fence. Front and back.
Of all of us, I think you are the most kind of like enjoy the polyglot guy who enjoys both the back end stuff and the front end stuff. I know that Fraser's very much the front end.
Fraser, yeah.
But I think he would prefer the front end. You're kind of in between, and then me and Mickey, I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth here, but I prefer the back end stuff, and
definitely,
and that kind. So it's interesting. I mean, I wish I enjoyed the front end more, but it just doesn't. It doesn't do the same thing for me. I enjoy a good algorithm and a good, performance and boost and design patterns and all this funky stuff.
It's quite interesting. When I first got into this sort of naively, I just assumed, a web developer does everything. And
well, they did. I mean, this is the thing.
They did.
Yeah, they did. I mean, that was the thing. You're part and parcel. I mean, getting a web developer. I mean, you do now actually get designers who are coders, and they're called unicorns because they're very rare and far between. But because the fields have become so diverse and so much more complicated, it's very hard to find people that actually do both. And because front ends are becoming more clever, back ends are becoming more clever as well, and they're splitting out into their own things. It's very much two separate entities.
Yeah, it just seems like kind of half a job. Like if you do front but not back. I know obviously that they're both extremely highly skilled, high skill sets in their own right. So, to try and be an absolutely amazing front and back end developer probably isn't realistic. But yeah, it's interesting.
I think I do agree. I think the thing it's very hard because I think there's that. It's weird that I think people with the web, they kind of get it misconstrued. Like there are, building a website for someone can be, and I'm sure you guys will agree, from the very simple kind of let's build a couple of static pages still, and you do still find people that want that, to a little bit more advanced where we have a CMS involved. Maybe the CMS is a custom built CMS, bespoke in quotes. That's a nice marketing term that people seem to love chucking around.
Bespoke, God, yeah, that's bespoke. A massive web word, isn't it?
Off the shelf.
If you stick the word bespoke on your CV,
it's bespoke.
Instantly.
Yeah, it's bespoke and off the shelf. Let's build a whole e-commerce system, and I think then people don't realise how much time has gone into all these platforms. I mean, we knock stuff like WordPress a lot, we knock stuff like Magento, but they're huge systems that people think of now as just being cheap and easy to build. Even our own versions of them, which is quite scary. And that's when you get the diverge of like, well, okay, so let's define e-commerce. Okay, so you're saying you want an e-commerce system that is just a site that may get like say a couple of thousand buys a month, or are you looking at something that's Amazon? Now, because you think Amazon's just built by one person.
Yeah.
That kind of like people have a very misconstrued idea that an e-commerce platform. Let's just use something once one person can build me an e-commerce platform. But then would you say the same kind of obviously they feel that it's the same as obviously George is now barking, which is making it lovely.
Is this your new dog?
It's my new
dog.
We're
up against it this evening.
We're up against it.
Sorry, segueing again.
George, lovely boy, lovely dude. He is. He's awesome. But he likes barking in the middle of a podcast,
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you said, Ed. To be honest with you, definitely, I agree with what you said as well, Lou. And I've said this many times before but you're right. That I don't think you can be an expert at both. But I definitely, I can see the appeal of the front end, and personally, I think there's much more variety in terms of the tasks that you're doing. And even like the front end now, you could probably say, well, actually, front end is now too vague a term. Like,
Yeah,
you're probably going to end up
absolutely.
with
I would plus one to that.
CSS developers. But I saw that. I mean, I had a friend, obviously, who was looking at a job website the other day, and he saw a listing for a CSS developer. And I've not really seen that before. I've seen front-end developer listing, I've seen back-end developer listing, but I've not seen CSS developer. And that's probably the way it's going to go, actually. A JavaScript developer, or I don't know.
Well,
maybe
hey,
even more
Just
finance.
literally having like 4 team members, so like front end, like an HTML guy, well maybe not HTML, but HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, SQL.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. I mean, you've got database administration. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like, you've got separations of concerns in a lot of already other places. I mean, the web is becoming that complex. You could have a team that is built of a guy who does markup, the HTML, the guy who does CSS, the guy that does JavaScript, front end JavaScript, the guy who does back end JavaScript. Because actually, moving on, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw it. Like, Amazon had a big old conference this week. I can't remember what the name was, but one of the things they actually brought out, and I just put it in Skype, was this thing called Lambda. Amazon Web Services are amazing, and the idea of Lambda is these, again, very much like a Unix philosophy, a functional philosophy, that you have a single stateless function. It is run via events, and it's written, you code currently in Node. So the code that's used for this is at the moment only Node.js. Only JavaScript can be run in it. So, I mean, that language has become so big. All it does is it runs based on an event being triggered. So say an image has been uploaded, or, maybe a message has been sent, it will then run this function, and then it will do whatever it needs to do, have its side effects, and that's it, and it will close. And, it's stateless in the fact that it won't, and you can chain these together. And this is what the Unix philosophy was back in the 1970s. I love the fact that we're all going back to the 1970s, where Unix was made, where the idea of the philosophy is that one thing that does one thing well, and that's it. And you compose them together to build bigger bigger, more powerful, more specific applications. And this is what Lambda does.
That does look really nice.
Absolutely.
A very simple, I mean, it's a very trivial idea with image uploads, but you could do it with anything, really. I mean, a lot of what we do as programmers, with things is event driven. So that to me was a very interesting, I kind of segue in there, but the old JavaScript thing where, Node, I mean, the idea of JavaScript on the server side has become as complex as JavaScript on the front end.
I suppose it's no different to advertising for a Laravel developer or a CodeIgniter developer. They're all, but on the front end, I'm an Angular specialist. I mean, I think Angular is probably going to be one of the biggest, aren't they? It seems to be very, very popular.
It is I mean, this is the thing. I mean, I am so behind. I wouldn't say behind, but more. I try to keep as much abreast of all the front end stuff, but I know that that's not where my passion lies, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like, mine does lie in the back end stuff where I'm seeing like this Lambda and I'm seeing all these things we can do there. And, I think that's when it does turn into, you need a group of developers, and then it turns into dealing with it, dealing with a team, team dynamic. In the web game, we've been very lucky that we are all kind of like one-man bandits. We are, I can do it all. And you deal with your own self. But could you imagine like a team now of 4 people that are working on something that's so entrenched with each other, and then you have to deal with it all? That's a whole other ball game. That's managerial stuff. That's scary stuff.
To segue in again, but Lou, you just mentioned the word CodeIgniter, or the name CodeIgniter, and you'll be interested to know that University of Kent, when it teaches their students about MVC, they use CodeIgniter.
Brilliant.
Which
I'm behind that. I think that's a good idea. That's how I learned.
I was surprised. I mean, obviously Ed's left at the convenient moment, but I'm thinking, I imagine he would not be too impressed, but I don't know. But the question I was going to ask you is, because we spoke about this a little while ago, but obviously you were talking about CodeIgniter has new owners. In fact, I've just gone to their homepage and just seen a little alert message that comes up about it has new ownership and stuff. What is happening with it? Have you heard anything?
What, since then?
Is it going to be yeah.
It's being taken over, and I think it's kind of going to be quite a big undertaking up towards the big release of CodeIgniter 3, I believe.
Okay, but there's no changes to the framework as yet, I guess.
I don't think there are, no. Not that I'm aware of, but I'm not actively using it at the moment. But I have to say that when it comes to the point when, I'll be very, very, very interested to see what they do with it, and how much they keep it within the original CodeIgniter kind of vibe, and obviously they want to build it out, and I'm assuming the new guys are going to want to try and compete with Laravel and Symfony and all the big players now. So I think they've got a big task doing that, but there is a very, very big CodeIgniter community still out there. I'd still class myself as one of those because it's like an old flame, isn't it? It's the first thing that I learned, and some of the more exciting things I did from an early stage, we're using CodeIgniter. So I'll always have an affection for it, and you guys used to use it as well. I mean, you guys must, have an interest in like what's going to happen with it, and I assume you'll both have a download and have a look whenever they bring out a new version.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? I'm just on their homepage now, and it says CodeIgniter Free is now available for download. I think it's like a beta version or something, but it says few issues remain to be resolved, and it will not be released until those are put to bed. Version 3 is almost ready for prime time, and many sites are actually using it in production already.
Wow.
So that'd be really interesting to have a look at, so you'd see what that's like.
But the change has been so recent, I can't imagine they've done a massive amount with it yet. It depends what their intentions are with it. I mean, Ed, you'll know the answers more than me and Mick probably will. But what were the people that are now using Laravel? What were the main sort of, if you had to give like a top 3 of things that they didn't like about CodeIgniter?
I think
things that you didn't like.
I think the thing is again, Laravel's not the only framework. I mean, Symfony, and for a PHP framework is pretty much the.
Are you using that more now? Is that your framework now?
Symfony is the underbelly of Laravel, and I think the thing was, I think it was one of those frameworks that I think the ownership of Ellis Labs was very much against. They open sourced it, but they were running a commercial branch that they didn't want to affect. So anything that wasn't up to their, I mean, this is what we had Phil Sturgeon talking about, where anything that they pushed that wouldn't go in guidelines with what they wanted from their commercial branch would, obviously be revoked and rejected. So it kind of had a bit of a, there was very much kind of a great, a sandpaper kind of effect where it was going against the grain there. But, people wanted to push and make this framework, more up to date, more relevant, whereas they maybe wanted to make sure that their business entity was staying up to date and as not up to date, but profitable, really. So I think that was kind of one of the things. I think one of the other things was the fact that they persisted to say on 5.2 or 5.1, I think it was, that they supported, all the auto loading and stuff wasn't there. And I mean, that's 5.3, that's 2009 now, I think, and that's ridiculous. There's one of the things actually talking about is Symfony, the new version of Symfony. They are discussing Symfony 3. And that, one of the things that Fabian did say was, what version of PHP should we support? And a lot of people on the poll were saying 5.5. So, people are moving up and up and up on their versions. I mean, Laravel 4, I don't know what 4.2, I think it is only supported by 5.4 or greater because of its use of traits. There's a lot of work going into Laravel 5, actually, that I've seen, but I haven't really been involved. It's funny, because you kind of are invested in the framework that you're using at that time. I was very heavily invested in CodeIgniter when I was using it, and then was very heavily invested when I was using Laravel, and now Symfony. So you keep up to date, partly because it's the it's the one that you're dealing with at that time, and there's so much work going on. I mean, it's great that the PHP community's got so much choice. I mean, let's not forget about like Cake PHP 3. Actually saying that they've actually got their own podcast now, which I hope I feel that maybe we've helped kind of start.
It was a nice bloke that came on.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry to miss that one. Actually, I wish I'd been on that.
And it's great. And I think podcasts are great to kind of get the message across. I mean, to kind of really talk to the community, express what you're feeling. I think the PHP community, and another thing actually I'll say is that Crack Joe, our mate Joe Watkins, he's actually got a blog now, and I've been reading it. It's a great blog, and I'll put it in the show notes. That on Twitter, actually. Yeah, he's been and he's putting stuff across, and he's a really great guy, and he knows his stuff, and he's working really hard and stuff. So I think one of the things is it's to be good and to be clever, but it's also to get your point across, and also to get people to understand what's going on. How about you, Mickey? Have you got any discussion topics?
This is the Big 50, isn't it?
This is the Big 50. Wow, we've only just.
There's your title, Ed. At least you haven't got to worry about that.
The Big 50. Oh,
Big 50. No, I've I'm basically useless this week. Sorry, I've got nothing. But
I'm sure
it's enjoyable.
I can spark some. I can definitely. I've got a couple of things that I wouldn't mind talking about just before the end, but I'm sure I'm going to spark something off with you, sir. So obviously, so first things first. I've been doing Swift stuff this week, and I found a great YouTube user. It's Mick, Lou. You're very much into this. Finding people on YouTube that really do give valuable information. It's Apple Programming. Is the username. I can't off the top of my head remember the actual guy who does it, but it's great resources. I've been dealing with a lot of memory. Oh god, this is funny. So memory consumption issues.
Right.
So with like C programming and stuff, you don't handle the stack. So your memory is kind of, you've got the stack where all your variables go that that you're using inside of, say, a function or something. But then objects or memory that you want to persist goes into the heap. And you'll say, okay, I want to allocate, this amount of memory, or it's memory that you don't. So with the stack, at compile time, you need to know how big that's going to be. So, an integer is going to be 32 bits, etc., like that. But say like an array or an expandable array. Say you want like an array that you can resize, like what PHP has, pretty much. Where you can say, I want to add this, delete that. So that will go on the heap. And you need to obviously manage that memory, saying, okay, well, it's this big now, then it's this big and stuff. So with C, it's very much low level. You deal with that, malloc, free and stuff like that. And obviously with C++, it's delete and new. And these keywords really do the same thing. You can also go backwards compatible because it's just a superset. But then like Objective-C has a similar type thing because it's just a superset of C again. Where it's you have allocate and init and stuff like that, and you can have like delete and release, and it has this idea of retain and release. So you have like a counter saying, oh, I need that guy, and then you'll just add a pointer to it, add a count to it, and it will say, okay, it will keep it around until it goes to 0. When it goes to 0, they'll release that from memory. That's called reference counting. And PHP has that as well, I think. I don't know whether I think PHP has a garbage collector as well, but I think it'd be awesome to get Joe Watkins on the show to talk about that. But the thing that Objective-C it started to adopt and now use probably about 3 or 4 years ago was something called ARC, which is automatic reference counting. So where you used to have to deal and handle memory yourself, where you're saying, okay, so say I've got an object, I create an object, so I allocate the memory for that object, I then initialize the object, I do a call on the object, you then have to free it yourself. And in the languages that we deal with, we don't do that. Java deals with it in a garbage collector way where it's just its own thread. PHP, I think, deals with it reference counting, but I also think it has its own garbage collector, I think, if I'm right in saying, where, we don't have to deal with memory, and what actually happens and cleaning up after ourselves. We literally create what we want and then it will handle removing it. So automatic reference counting was the idea that what happened was that you would deal with it almost in a manner that you didn't care, but actually under the scenes when it compiled it would inject the code that was needed to actually release the memory when you weren't using it and stuff, which is great. And I used a bit of Objective-C, but I didn't use a lot until I started using Swift. So with Objective-C, these layers have kind of built up and up and up, and you've got now this idea that you're just using automatic reference counting. Then we go to Swift, where Swift pretends to be a language that doesn't care at all about memory. But actually it does, because it's just another layer. And this tangent will be over soon. Is to say this YouTube user, Apple Programming, was able, to kind of get me to grips with what was happening under the scenes in Objective-C. To then realise, that's the magic that it's just the syntactic sugar that Swift's using to hide the fact that it's still handling it, which is a bit of annoying. But yeah, really great articles on there, videos on there. I can't, express enough how much they've actually helped me this week.
So it sounds like Swift is doing a lot of stuff under the hood for you, so you don't have to worry about it.
It's a bit annoying because it's a typeset language. It has to deal with the fact that you're handling types safely. But the problem is that having memory. I mean, the whole idea is, so say I allocate some memory. I say I want an array of 14 integers. So you get the size and say I just want to allocate, the size of 14 integers. You deal with that. What happens if I go over those 14 integers? Or what happens if I free it and then try and free it again, called like a double free? So I'm freeing memory that I don't actually own anymore. it can be quite scary that what you're doing. You have ultimate reign over the computer. So things like Arc and things like garbage collection, there's two different camps. I'll put them in the show notes for a couple of articles I wrote about them. But there are different ways of dealing with it. Garbage collection will happen, in a time that you don't know. So you won't know indeterminate time where garbage collection will come and free the memory that you've already used. Whereas Arc will free it the second you don't need it anymore. So it's quite a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, I agree. It's those kind of things that keep you on your toes, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Stuff.
Another one was actually this one, which is so this is a practical Git introduction, and you get a lot of introductions to Git, but this one actually goes into each individual function that you're going to use in a very detailed way, and also how Git works under the hood. So there's a lot of utility worker functions that are used. What they do is the functions that are used under the hood by all these higher level functions, again composing like the Unix philosophy, where like add will then call these functions. And I've actually got a blog post in the works, my first blog post in a long time about this. And actually one of the things is actually creating a file in Git using like the Git architecture, which is just a simple key value store. It's actually a functional DAG, which is a direct acyclic graph, which is really just clever words for saying that actually it's just a graph, like files that link to each other in a certain way.
Okay.
But I will. I think I'll hopefully finish writing that article next week where we can have a little discussion about it. But it's really interesting. A lot of people in the programming world, they love complicated ideas, but actually the hardest and the most rewarding and the most successful ideas are the simple ones, and that. Yeah, I feel that a lot of people prefer to go with the crazy, this is making me look clever. Whereas sometimes it's harder to make something that's just simple.
Yeah,
that's the art.
That looks like a really good.
That looks like a great article, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a very in-depth article, but very, very, very interesting. And finally, our friend Microsoft. So,
what have they done?
Well, they've open sourced .NET.
Really?
So, good luck, Java. I mean it.
What? Wait, what?
They've open sourced .NET. It's as open as Java is, if not more.
Right. Yeah, well, people are still going to use Java.
There's alternatives now. Microsoft have actually open sourced the .NET framework. They did it with Roslyn already. They're going to make it so .NET will run on Mac OS X and Linux as well.
I don't know how I feel about this.
Microsoft have
This is a subject I can't input on.
The thing is, it's a very much, one of those things where it's kind of crazy that they've actually done it, and I can only see good things ahead for it. I'm really glad that they have. It's a great. C#'s a great language, and it's good to have competition. And if one of the things was that the fact it was closed source, and the fact it was done by nasty Microsoft, now Java's got more competition. Well, got competition because those are the two virtual machines that people use the most. And if we can get it running on things like Linux, where that was the stranglehold, where Java was used on, obviously on Linux boxes and Unix boxes because that's all it could support. Now .NET may be able to run on it.
How long we've got to wait until it will run on Linux and?
So they did say, I think they did say a couple of months or so. So we've still got a little time, but there is working. They've been working heavily with the Mono project, which is the runtime that was currently do. Like it was almost like an unofficial runtime that was able to run these C# applications and .NET framework applications. So they haven't all the hard work that people have put in event before. They haven't kind of literally just said screw you. They've been quite nice with that. So. No, I think it's really interesting. So, yeah, I thought I'd leave it on that.
It's going to be buggy at first, though, right?
I don't know. You know what, Matt? The thing is that if it's got Microsoft...
Depends how many years they've been planning this, I guess.
Well, this is... a lot of... They said in their article that a lot of the .NET developers have been hoping for it for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And it was only since this new guy has come in, the leader of it all, who has spearheaded the fact, we're doing this. So pretty damn cool, but yeah, that's all I've rambled on for far too long here. I'm really sorry, guys. So anyone else got anything else to say?
Oh, I think that was really interesting. I will definitely have a play with it when I can play with it on OS X. Definitely, I'll give it a go. It'd be a great opportunity to have a play with C# and learn use it properly. So I will, definitely have a play.
Awesome.
But I don't think I have anything else to say.
Well. I think it's been a great pod, guys. I'm really sorry, audience, about the audio lag and whatnot. I'm going to hope in post-production, I'm going to hope to do as much as I can to kind of make it look seamless. I'm sure there'll be a couple of bits you're like, I swear Ed just edited that weirdly. I would have tried my best. One actually gripe is that Audacity is actually not supported by Yosemite. So yeah, actually Audacity isn't supported by Yosemite anymore. They have actually their last supported version of OS X was Mountain Lion. Oh no, Maverick. Sorry. Maverick. So yeah, this is crazy. So now, I mean, I use Audacity still, but I may have to move over to GarageBand. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Anyway,
cool.
that's more of a post-production, geeky, sad thing for the podcast. But no, it's been a great podcast, guys. And yeah, I think that's all I've got to say, really. How about you, Lou? Have you got anything else to wrap up on?
Mick, we came here as friends, and I'd like to think we're leaving as friends.
So you've wrapped it up. You've wrapped up. You started off, there was a bit of bickering.
Closest of friends. Always.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, guys. Yeah, that was a great pod.
Awesome.
Yeah,
all right, then.
I feel like you two kind of led it, but yeah.
That's all right. Well, it's not like you're busy, or anything,
No, that's true. Yeah.
Anyway, well, audience, it's been great speaking to you. Well, speaking to you, I say, you listening to us yabber on speaking at you. And we should be back next week. And have a good week.
All right. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Guys. Bye.
You've been listening to 3 Devs and a Maybe. You can contact us at contact@3devsandamaybe.com or follow us on Twitter at 3 Devs and a Maybe.